Alright, so we're checking out the EcoFlow River Mini Power Station in this video. Before we get into the video, I do want to let you guys know that EcoFlow is having a special promo sale from June 24th through July 17th. It's part of the Amazon Prime Day sale, and a whole bunch of their power stations, actually their entire lineup, is on discount. Various discounts on all of their models. Just a few examples here. For example, the River Mini here that we're going to talk about in this video is, I think, the largest discount at 46% off. Regular price is $349, and it's going to be selling for $189 during this sale, and that's a pretty good price. And we'll obviously talk about the power station as to why I think it's a pretty good price. If you want something much larger, basically the River Mini is like their low-end, entry-level, smallest capacity power station. But if you want to go to the other end of the spectrum and get their largest capacity power station, that would be the Delta Pro at 3,600 watt hours. The regular price is $36.99, and it will be on promo sale for $31.99. And if you missed my other review video on the River Pro, which is another EcoFlow power station that I reviewed about a year ago, and I still own it. It's one of my favorites. That's a 720 watt hour power station, sort of not quite mid-tier, but maybe like low, between kind of the crossover between low and mid-tier in terms of capacity. And that one's got a pretty good discount as well. $649 is the regular price, and it's going to be selling for $499 during the sale. Okay, so yeah, the River Mini here is one of their newer models, and it's actually an entry-level model. There's actually two versions of this. This one is the wireless version, and on top of the power station here, you can put your phone to do wireless charging up to 15 watts. And yeah, it works really well. I used my Samsung Note 20 Ultra, and does do fast wireless charging no problem. But quickly here, the rest of the stuff you get in the box with the power station. You get an AC cord here that goes into the side. I'll show you that in a second here. That charges up the power station. And the nice thing about having just a cord and not like a power brick is that they're using the inverter that's in here to not only provide the AC power on the side, which I'll show you, but also to recharge the batteries inside. So you don't need a separate, basically an AC to DC converter to charge up the batteries internally. It's actually built in. They're actually reusing the inverter in here, so it saves a little bit of space, and actually I think it helps in terms of the overall cost as well. You get these MC4 connector here that goes to the side for solar panel recharging. It has an XT60 and MC4 connectors. And I did test that. It worked pretty good. I'll explain that shortly. You get a cigarette lighter adapter for, I believe it's up to 120 watts of car charging. So if you want to charge up on the XT60 on the side here, with this you can charge this up in your car. And then you get some documentation, a quick start guide. I believe the full manual is online, and then you get this little notice here about getting extra extended warranty if you register. And then there's a little warning card here on connecting this power station to other solar panels other than the MC4 connector type. I think it has to do with the overall, I guess the power input of the solar panel that you're using. So you have to be careful. It's got to be within the specs of the input range or input voltage range. Otherwise, I've heard that if you use some other solar panels that output too much voltage or current, it will blow this charging circuits inside here. So be aware of that. It's an explanation about that warning. All right, so a quick overview of the specs here, just the numbers. You can pause the video for any things I'm not going to actually cover, but the overall capacity is 210 watt hours. I think it's the smallest capacity power station. Dimensions are 9.8 by 5.5 by 5.2 inches. That's one of their smallest ones, and it only weighs about 6.3 pounds. You can actually carry in just one hand or put it into a backpack. So this is going to be very portable for those of you guys that need something a little bit more portable, obviously at the expense of overall capacity. Here are the input-output ports here. So yeah, obviously it's got the AC input there, up to 3 amps it looks like, and then you got DC input, 11 to 39 volts, 100 watts, and 8 amps max is the voltage and current range here for that XT60 connector. So you got to make sure that your solar panels or any other DC input that you're going to be using to charge up this power station is within that. I do know that some people that on the River Pro that I have didn't follow this and used some like third-party solar panels, and then they believe the voltage or the current was too high and they actually damaged their power stations. So be aware that's very important. So we'll go over all the stuff on the front here. You got DC output, 12.6 volts at 10 amps. USB-C output up to 100 watts is probably power delivery, 5 amps max. You have USB-A output, 5 volts to 2.4 amps. And then of course you got your AC output here. 2 ports, you've got a pure sine wave inverter in there, 300 watts of outputs, and it will surge up to 600 watts. And then as I mentioned before, the wireless up on top for wireless charging is up to 15 watts max. Okay, so just for scale here, this is my hands on top of the power station. It's very small. You can, it's 6 pounds. It's just about right. The finish on here is like this glossy black piano finish, which I'm not that thrilled about. It's going to get a lot of fingerprints and probably going to scratch up, especially if you're using this outdoors. So be aware of that. Although that's just a cosmetic thing. It's not, has nothing to do with the functionality of this at all. Over here on the side, you have your input for recharging the power station. So you got your XT60 for your solar and car charging, 11 to 39 volts. And then you have your plug here for your AC charging. And so that basically, if we want to recharge up this really fast, I think here it does have the what's called the extreme recharge feature. Yeah, so basically this feature allows you to charge up the power station up to 50% in half an hour, 80% in 1 hour, and up to 100% in 1.5 hours, and 300 watts of max power input there. So this is it's very, very fast for recharging if you have a AC power source. For car charging there, if you're plugging into your car, obviously your car cigarette lighter has to output 12 volts up to a certain, I think up 10 amps, and then that way you can get to the up to 100 watts max. So I guess something less than 12 volts, something like maybe like 8 amps, will give you about 100 watts max that'll draw, and so your car needs to be able to provide that, and then it'll charge up within 3.5 hours. And for solar charging, 3 to 6 hours at 100 watts max. That really depends on the solar panel you're using and obviously how much sun you're getting and those type of conditions. But yeah, back over here on the side here, you have your AC outputs here. Again, these got the pure sine wave inverter. You got your button here for turning the AC side on and off, and you have your cooling vent on the side. On the other side, you just have a exhaust fan and vent. So this is the back of the power station, and basically they put an indentation here to allow you to grab the power station. So you can see here, I'm just holding it with one hand. Instead of having a handle here on top, they put this wireless charging pad here. You can then grab and hold the power station with one hand like that. Over here on the back, there's a sticker here for the QR code for the app, and I'll show you the app here in a second. And then here in the back are additional specs that I talked about earlier. It's just a sticker here on the bottom. Okay, so here is the front. You have your power light here, or turn that on and off. And then if you want to put it to sleep, just short press it. The little light will still be blinking, means the power station's on. It'll actually time out after 30 minutes and actually shut it off. But basically just puts the display to sleep. And then if you want to turn off the power station, long press the button. See off there, and then it'll actually shut everything off. And then obviously you can turn on each of these things, each of these sections individually. So for the cigarette lighter, if you have anything with 12 volts DC, plug that in there. Pretty typical of a lot of power stations, and then you just press that to turn it on. So you have to turn on the power station first, and then turn on the individual sections. And you'll see it's lit up here. Over here you have your USB-A, and then you have your USB-C power delivery at 100 watts. And then you have this section here, that button for turning the section on and off. And you can see on the display here, as the individual sections turn on, they actually show up here. There is a button here called IoT Reset. This is for the wireless hotspot. So if you press that, so you press and hold the button, and then you get a little wireless icon flashing here. and then you can connect to that via your smartphone and then use the app. And then using the app, basically, it just replicates all the functions that are on the panel here. So it might be useful if this is stored somewhere, maybe like not in a very convenient spot, and you want to be able to access to turn on the different sections. You can do that with the smartphone app. But yeah, it's basically the same functions, like the buttons turn on the individual sections. And it also will give you some, obviously the information that's on the display here in terms of power input and power output. So if you want to basically tuck this away somewhere like under a cabinet or something, a desk, somewhere where you don't necessarily need to have it physically available to you, you can then use your smartphone app to control all the functions of the power station, which is pretty nice. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Put a link to the River Pro review down in the video description. It's very similar to this one, so if you're looking for something with a lot more capacity, obviously 210 watt hours is not a whole lot, but again, this does recharge very quickly. For me, this is going to be pretty good if you're, like in a place where you just want to like carry it with you, maybe not too far away from your car or something like that. But then you want some available power for various needs. I think something like camping would be really good for this, or backpacking, but you don't want to carry something huge with you. This is going to be really good for something like that. But anyway, I'll put the link to the River Pro review in the video description as well. You can check that out if you want something a little bit larger. That's going to do it for this video. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll talk to you guys in the next one.